Good morning. This is the Rules Committee. If I could ask everybody, please, to be quiet, because it's hard to hear in here when even just a few people are talking. This is the Rules Committee. We have attained a quorum with Councilman Jones, Councilwoman Blackwell, who's been appointed to the committee for today, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, and Council President Clark. For the record, bill number 190895, which is a zoning bill dealing with the area bounded by Cedar Avenue, Baltimore Avenue, 47th Street, will not be heard today. So if anybody is here for that Cedar Park area, that bill will be held at the request of the sponsor. So let's get started. Ms. Marconi, our first bill for today, please.
Bill number 190853, an ordinance approving the 8th Amendment of the redevelopment proposal for the Point Breeze urban renewal area, bringing the area generally bounded by Washington Avenue, South 25th Street, Reed Street, the rear property lines of 1400 and 1500 of South Taylor Street, Tasker Street, South 25th Street, Moore Street, and South Broad Street, including the 8th Amendment to the Urban Renewal Plan, which provides inter alia for changes that would make it consistent with the Point Breeze redevelopment area plan and generally consistent with the most recent comprehensive plan approved by the City Planning Commission of the City of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Sir, please identify yourself and proceed.
Morning. My name is Angel Rodriguez. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority. I have a brief comment. Honorable Chairperson and members of the committee, I'm here to speak in support of Bill number 190853, which is the 8th Amendment to the redevelopment proposal for the Point Breeze urban renewal area. This bill would authorize the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to facilitate the implementation of the most recent comprehensive plan approved by the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission has determined that the proposed revisions in this amended proposal is consistent with Philadelphia 2035 citywide vision and the South District Plan. The current comprehensive plan identifies forward-thinking goals and strategies for achieving new and appropriate development within the city, and will direct the redevelopment of the Point Breeze urban renewal area by zoning code controls and guidelines as detailed by the Philadelphia City Planning Committee. Honorable Chairperson and members of the committee, I respectfully request favorable consideration of Bill number 190853 and would also ask the suspension of council rules to allow first reading on December 5th, 2019.
All right. Thank you, sir. You had me when you called me honorable chairperson, so that was easy. Any questions for Mr. Rodriguez on this? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Is anyone else here to testify on bill number 190853? Seeing none. Thank you. Mr. Marconi, on next bill, please.
Bill number 190889, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of the land located within an area bounded by Spring Garden Street, Lancaster Avenue, 38th Street, Hamilton Street, and 31st Street.
The bill amends the zoning maps in the area described, and it seeks to correctively rezone several single-family homes from RM1, residential multifamily, and CMX2, neighborhood commercial mixed use, to RSA5, residential single-family attached. This remapping arose from discussions between the Powhatan Village Civic Association, PVCA, and the council member's office during rezoning discussions for another ordinance. PVCA identified properties they felt were priorities to be rezoned to RSA5. City Planning Commission staff reviewed the existing land use plan for the properties, and this bill includes parcels that the City Planning Commission staff, PVCA, and the council member's office agree should be correctively downzoned. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider bill number 190889 at its meeting today, and the City Planning Commission staff will recommend it for approval. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190889? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Marconi, please, our next bill.
Bill number 190890, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within area bounded by Chestnut Street, 45th Street, Ludlow Street, and 46th Street.
Thank you. Mr.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission. Bill number 190890 was introduced in the City Council November 14th of this year by Councilmember Blackwell, and it will amend the Philadelphia zoning maps in the area described. This bill will change the zoning of West Catholic High School's parking lot from CMX2 commercial mixed use to CMX3 community commercial mixed use. The Archdiocese of Philadelphia requested this rezoning bill as they plan on selling the site for redevelopment. The school and the Archdiocese are in discussions with the Spruce Hill Civic Association regarding conditions, use restrictions, and deed restrictions that all parties would be amenable to for this site. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting today. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. I see we have an amendment. I think they're the zoning maps, correct?
Yes. Correct.
You're adding to the bill. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill?
No, Mr. Chairman, we understand the two sides have met, and they've worked it out.
Okay. Great. Thank you,
And
Councilwoman.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190890? Great. Moving right along. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 190891, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within area bounded by Spruce Street, 34th Street, Civic Center Boulevard, and University Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Gregorski.
Morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission, here to testify on bill number 190891, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember Blackwell. This bill amends the Philadelphia zoning maps in the area described and rezones the City of Philadelphia's Medical Examiner Building and the Consortium Building operated by the City of Philadelphia's Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services to accommodate redevelopment of these city-owned sites, as well as removing a parcel split zoning designation. There is an accompanying property bill for the sale and transfer of the Medical Examiner Building and the Consortium Building. Both buildings' operations will be moving to other locations. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered bill number 190891 at its meeting of November 19th of this year and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190891? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 190893, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within area bounded by Ogden Street, 40th Street, Parish Street, and Preston Street.
Thank you. Mr. Gregorski.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission, here to testify on bill number 190893, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember Blackwell. This bill amends the Philadelphia zoning maps in the area described and will correctively rezone two multifamily dwellings, remove the CMX2 commercial mixed-use zoning along 40th Street, and replace it with RM1 residential multifamily. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting today, and the City Planning Commission staff will recommend it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190893? Seeing none. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 190894, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within area bounded by Locust Street, 49th Street, Baltimore Avenue, and 58th Street.
Thank you. Mr. Gregorski.
Morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission, here to testify on bill number 190894, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th by Councilmember Blackwell. This bill will change the Philadelphia zoning maps in the area described and will correctively rezone parts of the Cobbs Creek neighborhood. Cobbs Creek is largely comprised of single-family homes that are zoned for multifamily uses, even on many blocks where the homes are too small to support multifamily uses. This bill focuses on the corrective residential downzoning, in addition to correctively rezoning a hospital, two schools, and a recreation center. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered bill number 190894 at its meeting November 19th of this year and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190894? Okay. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
All right. Good morning. I am a resident in the neighborhood, and I want to,
Just state your name.
Catherine Blunt.
Sure.
Okay. Hello, Chairman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. I am Catherine Blunt, a West Philadelphia resident since 1985. I am the third owner of my house on a block with 61 houses, 55 of which are single-family, 5 are apartments, 2 to 3 have group living arrangements, with 8 to 10 stable Section 8 housing. Within the last 10 years, we have seen new families purchasing housing and raising their families. This last year, we had 4 houses sell to single families. My long-term and new neighbors love our racially, ethnically, and economically diverse neighborhood with our Victorian houses, our porches, our green spaces, and our community of mutual love, support, and care. My block is not different from blocks throughout the section of West Philly, be they Victorian, brick, or stone face, or with porches or without, 2-story or 3-story, small or large streets. We were not aware of a lurking danger inherent in the city's 2012 rezoning that transformed many of our properties into by right, for-profit, mass-density development opportunities for housing speculators. Blocks of our residential single-family housing was upzoned to residential multifamily usage, even though the neighborhoods remain overwhelmingly residential and single-family. Soon development like the one, and it's on the back, pictured on the back of my testimony, started appearing in the middle of our blocks, on vacant lots, and even next door to our homes because the residential multifamily designation gave developers the right to change the appearance as well as the population density of individual houses as well as blocks of houses in our communities without meeting with us or notifying us. An RM designation district gives developers the by right authority to build moderate to high-density multi-unit housing up to 3 stories on 2-story blocks and beyond 3 stories on 3-story blocks. Let's be clear, RM designations are not creating or increasing affordable housing in West Philly. Instead, and in general, developers and landlords are escalating rental costs along with the cost of owning housing in West Philly. Fortunately, we West Philly residents represented in zoning legislation 190894 and another zoning legislation that will come up later, 190898, came together, held informational community meetings, did petition drives to correct the zoning in our neighborhoods so that it would reflect the overwhelming housing usage as they were originally designed and continually used. We call it SAVE zoning because we want to preserve and protect our housing stock as well as provide for our communities and even protect the housing stock We call it SAVE zoning because we want to preserve and protect our housing stock as well as provide for the communities in which we live. Every day and every week we remain upzoned leaves us vulnerable to our neighborhood being reshaped without our awareness, our involvement, or our consent. On behalf of our neighbors on the blocks in the areas identified in legislation 190894 and legislation 190898, we thank Councilwoman Blackwell for addressing our imminent housing concerns. Further, Chairman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee, I respectfully request your support in correct zoning our housing and thereby preserving and protecting our diverse communities and our diverse neighborhoods. We also have a letter of support from Deborah Giles, who is a CPI, Citizen Planning Institute graduate, who was making some general comments about zoning on the record.
Thank you.
Thank
and Ms.
you.
Blunt, you note also a bill that will be coming up in a minute, 190898. Your remarks will be made part of
Thank
that
you.
record also.
Thank you very much.
Any questions? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on bill number 190894? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Marconi, please, our next bill.
Bill number 190897, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Haverford Avenue, 42nd Street, Powelton Avenue, Market Street, and 46th Street.
Mr. Gregorski.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission here to testify on bill number 190897, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember Blackwell. This bill amends the Philadelphia zoning maps, and this area contains PHA's West Park Towers, and this bill will change the property to CMX4 commercial mixed-use zoning. Also included are corrective zoning changes as recommended in the University Southwest District Plan, including updating residential homes that are currently zoned for SPPOA, Special Purpose Parks and Open Space, to a more appropriate residential district. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider the bill at its meeting of today, where the staff will recommend it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none, I know that we have an amendment changing the map a little bit, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190897? No? Okay. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 190898, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Cobbs Creek, Baltimore Avenue, 49th Street, Grays Avenue, 58th Street, Springfield Avenue, and Cobbs Creek Parkway.
Mr. Gregorski.
Morning, Marty Gregorski with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on bill number 190898, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember Blackwell. This bill amends the Philadelphia zoning maps and correctively remaps parts of the King Sessing neighborhood. King Sessing is largely comprised of single-family homes that are zoned for multifamily uses, even on many blocks where the homes are too small to support multifamily uses. This bill focuses on the corrective residential downzoning, in addition to downzoning some industrial parcels to less severe industrial uses as a buffer between residential homes and the railroad tracks. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 190898 at its meeting of November 19th of this year and recommended it for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yes. Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. And I know there's an amendment for this, too, that will
Correct.
be presented at the committee meeting. And Ms. Blunt's testimony on the previous bill also included this bill, and that will be included in the record. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? The record reflects that Councilman Squilla, Vice Chair of the committee, is present. Ms. Marconi, no one else here to testify on 190898? There is? Okay, please. We're getting through it. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Hi, my name is Tashelle Jenkins, and just want to thank Councilwoman Blackwell for addressing our concerns related to Bill number 190898 as reflected in the proposed amendments that you referred to previously.
Good morning. My name is Jahad Ali. I'm here for Southwest Philadelphia District Services. I have a question about the bill on the area of Angora Terrace. The proposed change, it was RSA 3, now it's RSA 5. So, Marty, is that going to be changed? Because that...
You got to ask us, and then we'll relay it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, Council Chairman Greenlee and other members of the committee, excuse me, good morning. I attended the hearing at the councilwoman let me know that planning was having a committee, the one that Marty just talked about. And when I went there, I was in the audience and I noticed they were changing Angora Terrace to single families. I grew up in that neighborhood. Ever since I used to go to Transfiguration, that street was always duplexes. It was built as duplexes. Somewhere, maybe, I could never really find out, 2012, when they remapped it, they mapped it to single family, RSA 3. So the change that we were requesting, because a lot of the residents, when they go to sell their property, they have to come to Southwest Philadelphia District Services, which is an RCO, to get a zoning variance. That block is one of the longest blocks in the city. It goes from 53rd to 55th. It's really the 5400 block and the 5300, because then it crosses at 53rd into the 5200 block. That is a continuous street, 2 blocks, and it's over 200 houses on that block that were built as duplexes. We didn't want to burden the homeowners, so we asked planning to change that to the appropriate zoning that they could have, which would be multi-family or 2-family dwellings. So that's what I would like to know.
My understanding is that the amendment that is being offered addresses that issue.
All right.
The amendment we're going to put in.
Well, we'd like to thank the councilwoman. I'm not the representative of this people, but I'm the representative of Southwest Philadelphia District Services, and we thought it was a burden on the people to have to come to us every time, and we must have had at least 3 RCO meetings just granting them permission to do what should have been by right, they should have a right to do. Thank you for allowing me to talk.
And those amendments will be offered at the meeting.
real quick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Jones?
From down the bottom, Andy Jenkins' daughter?
I beg your pardon?
Are you Andy Jenkins' daughter?
No, I'm not.
All right, okay,
Sorry about that.
that's all right. Bye-bye.
Let me also note for the record that in addition to that, we have an amendment that deals with Reverend Poyser on 53rd Street. That and Angora Terrace are amendments that you referenced, and we thank you for that.
Well, thank you. This is Representative Pastor Poison's Church, and we wanted to thank you on behalf. I wanted her to put that in the record because we know how much hard work you did to make that happen. The other thing, Councilwoman, that we just wanted to have the committee consider, because you're moving big parcels of land, like 52nd and Whidbey, all the I-2s are going to CMX. This council previously had approved anytime you did zoning, that a zoning change would require a EOP plan. Because we're massively doing this zoning, there has to be something noted in the record that these big parcels, anything in excess of maybe 2,000 square feet, would need a OEO plan. So we're asking that you to consider that.
All right. Thank you. And certainly, we agree with all that you said yesterday and today. My staff reminds me that this isn't a project, so it doesn't refer to this. This is just remapping. But I'm hopeful that all of us will realize we have to have EOP plans for all development projects that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Yeah, and Councilwoman, I would just like to put in the record, because the problem that will happen once the remapping goes place, a developer goes to the city and buys a parcel, 100,000, 50,000 square feet. By right, he would have ICMX. He wouldn't need to go to a community group to have an OEO plan because it's not required, because then it would be by right. But because council is taking this action, it would be required to have an OEO plan. Even though it's not a project, but because you're doing remapping, that should be required to have an OEO plan for anything that you do. In fact, you're passing a bill, 190895 this morning, the community benefit agreement, and that addresses remapping. And that's exactly what this is. But this horse will have left the barn across a vast area.
No, you are exactly right. We are in total agreement that we need to have our EEO plans reflected in all that we do, and we thank you for bringing that to our attention and for noting that the law does reflect that. We have to check to make sure it happens.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Am I correct?
Yes.
We got the law for it, now we got to check it.
Yeah, you have 1600, which is the OEO requirements, and it clearly says zoning and remapping,
Yes.
rezoning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And record reflect Councilman Taubenberger, member of the committee, is present. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190898? Seeing none, Ms. Marconi on next bill, please.
Bill number 190902, an ordinance amending the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 22nd Street, Market Street, 21st Street, and Ludlow Street.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission, here to testify on bill number 190902, which was introduced in the City Council on November 4th of this year by Councilmember Greenlee for Council President Clark. This bill amends the Philadelphia zoning maps in the area described, and it rezones the properties along the south side of the 2100 block of Market Street from CMX4 to CMX5 Center City Commercial Mixed Use, and appropriately zones the June 5th Memorial to SPPOA, Open Parks and Open Space. This change is a recommendation of the 2035 Central District Plan. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered bill number 190902 at its meeting of November 19th and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So just speak to this document we just received regarding the Economic Opportunity Plan.
I don't know what you just...
I don't think he would be involved in that.
Yeah.
Planning wouldn't be involved in that. But I know the council president has worked on this, and that's why it just got approved, so that's why we're amending it now. Yes.
They are generally included as part of the bill
Yes,
for rezoning.
and it will be made
this.
as an amendment
Yeah.
when the bill is presented at the meeting.
So given the sponsor, thank you.
Okay. Any questions on bill number 190902? And again, that amendment, the EOP, will be presented at the meeting. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190902? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 190913, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by further providing with respect to uses permitted or prohibited in commercial districts, all under certain terms and conditions.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 190913, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember O'Neill. Bill number 190913 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by prohibiting visitor accommodations in the CA2 auto-oriented commercial zoning district within 1,000 feet of any residential zoning district. This bill would impact CA2 zoning districts citywide. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill number 190913 at its meeting of today, where the staff will request an additional 45 days to review the bill, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190913? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 190914, an ordinance amending Chapter 14-500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending Section 14-514 entitled FNE, Far Northeast Overlay District, all under certain terms and conditions.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill number 190914, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember O'Neill. Bill number 190914 amends Chapter 14500 of the Philadelphia Zoning Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending Section 14514 entitled FNA Far Northeast Overlay District to prohibit residential buildings from exceeding 35 feet in height and to prohibit roof decks and roof access structures in all residential zoning districts. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill number 190914 at its meeting today, where the staff will recommend for the addition of the following amendments. One, height restrictions that would not apply to residential zoning districts that are based on FAR, the floor area ratio. Height restrictions would only apply to those zoning districts RSD1 through RM1 residential, and roof deck and height restrictions would only apply to residential uses within these residential zoning districts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Councilman Squilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this for citywide?
This is not. This is for the far northeast overlay only.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. Any other questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190914? Seeing none. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 190916, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Walnut Street, Front Street, South Street, and 8th Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Mr. Gregorski.
Morning, Marty Gregorski with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill number 190916, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember Squilla. Bill number 190916 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps in the area described. It correctively rezones parcels fronting on Washington Square and downzones a significant number of parcels from RM1 residential multifamily to RSA5 residential single-family attached. Together, this bill will create 20 non-conforming parcels with 70 units on them and removes the potential for 304 additional housing units. It is also worth noting that the RM1 parcels can utilize the mixed income housing bonus, whereas the RSA5 parcels cannot, so this change may inhibit the creation of new affordable units. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 190916 at its meeting of November 19th of this year and recommended that it not be approved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify? I know we do have a couple other people on the list. Please. Mr. Spector, I think you're putting in some petitions here.
Yes.
Electronically. They will be made part of the record.
Thank you. My name is Larry Spector. I am president of the Society Hills Civic Association. With me is Mary Purcell, who is the vice president of the association. Our association has proposed a remapping of the zoning classification for certain parcels in our community. The purpose is to allow for multifamily occupancy, but in balance with the smaller scale of hundreds of historic properties in the neighborhood that have for many years been used as single-family homes. We have a number of residents here today in support of the bill, and I would ask that they stand up simply so that council is aware of their presence.
Okay, record reflect, there's a whole lot of people here for this bill.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We also have a petition which has been submitted for the record. The petition was addressed to Councilman Squilla, who we thank for doing a terrific job in working to accommodate our position on remapping with that of the Planning Commission. The petition reads as follows, simply one paragraph. Dear Councilman Squilla, I am a resident of Society Hill. I support the enactment of the pending zoning overlay and remapping bills that are designed to protect our neighborhood. The bills include reasonable regulations for vulnerable parts of Society Hill while still allowing for new development and additional density. We are one of the premier historic neighborhoods in the nation, and we appreciate the attention and backing from City Hall on these bills. Thank you. The petition was signed by over 270 residents, and I am going to spare you reading all their names. Thank you.
Thank you, because if you tried, I was going to stop you.
I understand.
But that petition, again, will be made part of the record. Ms. Purcell?
Thank you. Mary Purcell, Vice President, Society Hill Civic Association. As you know, following the enactment in 2012 of the new city zoning law and mapping of all city parcels under the new classifications, Society Hill and neighborhoods all across Philadelphia were tasked with reviewing and correcting the results. The mandate directed that correction should reflect current use. In addition, new development should respect the context of existing neighborhood properties. As stewards of an important restored historic neighborhood, we have taken this mandate seriously. Starting in 2016, Society Hill engaged professional consultants, Planning Commission staff, stakeholders across the community in a neighborhood dialogue. Residents and other stakeholders invested countless volunteer hours, resulting in our neighborhood plan, which includes zoning recommendation, design standards, and open space plan. Following then continued extensive review in 2018 of our draft zoning classification corrections with the Planning Commission staff, we reached agreement on appropriate corrections to approximately 250 parcels. And we confirmed with the Planning Commission staff that the resulting maps would create very few non-conforming uses in the neighborhood. The Planning Commission then unanimously accepted our plan in July of 2018, including these zoning corrections. But further, we continue to work with the Planning Commission on additional requested changes, working with Councilmember Squilla, and we have accepted some changes to the maps, resulting in the corrective zoning maps under consideration today. So we have followed the process. We've engaged all appropriate stakeholders. We are seeking nothing different from what any other Philadelphia neighborhood is seeking, that in a city of unique neighborhoods, our neighborhood's unique character should be embraced. We're quite invested in this. We've worked many hours, and we thank you for your support.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I would also like to add to the record a letter of support to the zoning corrections from Superintendent Cynthia McLeod of the Independence National Historical Park.
All right, if you can get that to us, well, it'll be made part of the record.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I recognize Councilman Squilla, please let the record reflect Councilwoman Sanchez, member of the committee, is present. Councilman Squilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to also thank both the Planning Commission and the Society Hill Civic Association because we had many meetings on this, and I know at the end of the day we still have disagreements, but as a whole, this was a process that took a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of pushback on both sides, and I think we finally have something that could pass knowing that it was done in good faith and that people really put their efforts forth on both sides of it. So thank you all for your hard work, and hopefully we'll be able to work further in the future on new and exciting projects in the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Thank you both. Thank you all. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190916? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 190917, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Broad Street, Snyder Avenue, 7th Street, and Oregon Avenue.
Morning, Marty Gregorski with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill Number 190917, which was introduced in the City Council on November 14th of this year by Councilmember Squilla. This bill amends the Philadelphia zoning maps in the area described. The Planning Commission worked closely with community groups and the councilperson's office on these changes. The primary goals of the bill are both corrective rezoning to reflect what is on the ground today and what we call zoning to advance the plan, which rezones certain areas in anticipation of future uses. The bill correctively rezones blocks as RM1 residential multifamily, RSA5 residential single-family attached, and IRMX industrial commercial mixed use. The bill also upzones properties along South Broad Street to allow for future, more dense development close to the Broad Street line. Lastly, the bill seeks to strengthen neighborhood commercial corridors such as Snyder Ave, South 7th Street, Moyamensing Ave, and Oregon Avenue by both strategically upzoning and downzoning certain areas to concentrate commercial activity and encourage a more walkable pedestrian environment. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill Number 190917 this meeting today, where the staff will recommend it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 190917? No? Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 190866, an ordinance amending Subcode A of Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Administrative Code and Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to revise certain provisions concerning building permits in the NCO Neighborhood Conservation Overlay District and making related changes all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill Number 190866, which was introduced in the City Council on October 31st of this year by Councilmember Squilla. Bill Number 190866 will amend both the building code and the zoning code to discourage the demolition of structures within an NCO, Neighborhood Conservation Overlay District, thus furthering the recommendations of the city's Historic Preservation Task Force. The NCO districts provide additional zoning regulations and design guidelines for new construction and alterations to help preserve the character of the neighborhood. Under this bill, if a property is located within an NCO district, the owner will be required to obtain a building permit for the construction of a new building or the expansion or alteration of the existing building before they can obtain a demolition permit for an existing building. This would not apply to accessory structures like sheds or decks, nor would it apply to buildings L&I determines to be in imminent danger of failure or collapse. These changes require applicants to make additional financial commitment to the development of a lot, which can help deter speculative demolition or provide neighbors with information regarding plans for development of the lot. Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill Number 190866 at its meeting of November 19th of this year and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No, I don't think. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none, I believe there are. He's already here. Other testify. Commissioner, you want to come forward too? I know you're on the list too. You must really like us here. You keep coming back and visiting and everything.
I love you guys.
Paul, why don't you start, please? Identify
Thank
yourself
you,
first.
Chairman Greenlee, and good morning, members of the committee. My name is Paul Steinke, Executive Director of the Preservation Alliance for Greater Philadelphia. Neighborhood conservation overlays are a great planning tool. We have 6 of them in Philadelphia. We should probably have more. What they do is they help preserve the scale, materials, and the streetscapes of neighborhoods. We've got them from Powelton Village to Overbrook Farms, from Roxborough to Queen Village, and a couple other neighborhoods in between. The problem with them, though, is they don't regulate demolition. The bill before you will remedy that because it will require demolition permits to be issued in tandem with building permits, which we think is a really good thing. Why? Because with that, properties within neighborhood conservation overlays will no longer be able to be speculatively demolished and left to sit as vacant, undeveloped lots, bringing down the neighborhood. So we think this bill is a sensible tweak to the NCO ordinance, and we are in support of it. Finally, this bill also represents the 4th recommendation to come out of the Mayor's Historic Preservation Task Force, on which Councilmember Squilla served. This will be the 4th one that is seeking implementation. You've already passed 3. Thank you for that. So the Preservation Alliance is in support of Bill 190866. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Good morning, Chairman Greenlee and council members of the Rules Committee. My name is Deborah McCarty, and I am the co-chair of the Powelton Village Civic Association's Zoning Committee. I'm here today to testify in support of Bill number 190866. As you are aware, Pownton Village is a wonderful neighborhood of mostly low-rise, porch-fronted Victorian homes. Located near growing institutions and the most active commercial office market in the region, our neighborhood is faced with intense redevelopment pressure. A few years ago, City Council approved a neighborhood conservation overlay to help our neighborhood retain the attributes which make it so special. While we are glad to have the additional protections afforded by the NCO, in practice, it has not been as effective as we would have hoped. We have seen many intact properties demolished prior to plans being approved for new construction. Such demolitions can lead to long-term vacant lots, which are a blight to the neighborhood. An example being at 38th and Hamilton right now, where homes were torn down about a year and a half ago, and it just sits collecting trash, which I report to 311. We believe that this bill will improve upon the existing requirements and prevent unnecessary speculative demolitions. This bill will also help to ensure compliance with the requirements in our NCO. It is for these reasons that we are in support of Bill number 190866 and respectfully request that it be voted out of committee. Thank you.
You, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Any questions? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190866? Seeing none, for the record, that we also have written testimony and be made part of the record from Sari Warden of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 190859, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to revise certain provisions of Chapter 14-702 entitled Floor Area Height and Housing Unit Density Bonuses by amending the provisions for mixed income housing all under certain terms and conditions.
Good morning, Marty Gregorski with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill number 190859, which was introduced in the City Council on October 31st of this year by Councilmember Green. Bill number 190859 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by expanding the existing mixed-income housing bonus, which is currently limited to developments that are primarily residential, so that it would be available to developments where less than 50% of the gross floor area is in residential use. The current limitation is in place because the requirement to earn the bonus is either to reserve 10% of the units as affordable or to pay an in-lieu fee. If this were open to a primarily non-residential development, developers could reserve a very small number of affordable units in order to earn enormous density bonuses. Opening the bonus to commercial developments while limiting their participation to the in-lieu fee option, which is based on density earned rather than the affordable units provided, removes this potential loophole while increasing the opportunities for contributions to the Housing Trust Fund. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 190859 at its meeting of November 19th of this year and recommended it for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time. And I would like to say it's been a pleasure working with Chair Greenlee. And you will be missed by the Planning Commission and by me.
Thank you. You really mean that? No, I actually, Mr. Gregorski, you beat me to it. I was going to say, because I know this is the last bill you're testifying on. It's been a pleasure working with you all these 8 years. It's every once in a while, you were the target when we disagreed with the Planning Commission, even though oftentimes that wasn't your decision. But we appreciate you always acted very professionally. You kept us informed about what was going on, and we appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And I'm leaving, but you're still staying, so you'll be back. Yeah. Yes, in this chamber. Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski? Seeing none again. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think we have 3 other people, at least on the list. Ms. Marconi, you want to call the names? Or?
Nora Lichtash, Dominique Howell, and Mika Outlaw.
Okay. Other than those 3 individuals, anybody else here to testify on this bill? Okay, great. Okay. Actually, I only see 2 people here, but. Okay. All right, fine. Please approach. Nora, why don't you start?
Okay, thanks. Good morning. My name's Nora Lichtash, and I want to talk about why our 62-member coalition, the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities, that represents, you're walking away, thousands of Philadelphians, strongly supports Bill 190859, the commercial density bonus. I work at a group called the Women's Community Revitalization Project, WCRP, it's also known as, and we're a proud member of that coalition. Other people are here today in green shirts. Can I hear it for the coalition? And you know us because our coalition's been working with most of you, all of you, to fund affordable and accessible housing by increasing resources in the Housing Trust Fund. When we worked with council members Blackwell and Reynolds Brown 14 years ago to create the Housing Trust Fund, we had a vision. And that vision was that our city would really address the need that all of us have for safe, accessible, affordable housing. And we've been working with many of you to fund affordable, accessible housing by increasing those resources in the Housing Trust Fund. And we're proud of that legislation. But that vision is about ensuring that the lowest income folks who earn 30% of AMI or less are included. So we're really proud that the original legislation funded that. 30% of area median is $27,000 for a family of four, which is not that low, but we needed to fund folks even lower than that. So money from the Housing Trust Fund enables us to create projects, many of us, and I just want to talk about one that WCRP started construction on in late August, beginning of September. It's 35 homes in Germantown, which is considered a pretty affordable neighborhood. And I live in that neighborhood, and I do think it's pretty affordable, but the night that we held a community meeting in October to take applications, people were around the corner. 250 people came. And within 3 weeks, we had 700 folks coming for applications. So it's clear that our Housing Trust Fund is doing great work, but we need more resources into the trust fund because this project is not alone. And so that's why we're excited to be here to support Councilman Green's legislation. And we know that this is an opportunity to generate resources, and we're asking you to stand with us to ensure that Philadelphia is a city for all of us.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning. My name is Dominique Howe, and I am an independent living specialist at Liberty Resources, a Center for Independent Living in Philadelphia, and a member of the grassroots organization Disabled in Action. Even more importantly, I am an advocate and a mother. Liberty Resources and Disabled in Action are both run by people with disabilities. Both organizations have been around nearly 4 decades and advocate for the rights of people with disabilities in Philadelphia. We have been working on making a housing trust fund one that meets our city's needs for over 20 years. We live in a city where over half of its residents are renters, where 16% of people are disabled, and many are on fixed incomes, making anywhere between $738 and $1,200 a month. This equals to $14,000 a year or less. Our coalition and members organizations have fought for more money for the Housing Trust Fund and are excited to be here today to support Councilmember Green's bill number 190859 to create a commercial density bonus. We support this bill because it would get more money to very important but very underfunded programs like adaptive modification. DIA and LRI advocate for people with disabilities under 60 and over 60 who want to leave the nursing homes and live in the community. But our severe shortage of accessible units makes it very difficult to locate housing, so most people wait up to a year or more to get out of the nursing home, which is very, very devastating. If you haven't lived in a nursing home, you have no idea how awful it is and how difficult it is to wait so long. My personal story involves the Philadelphia shelter system. Myself and my 4-year-old daughter at the time were homeless for 9 months and then lived in a shelter that could not accommodate me due to my disability for nearly 2 months. During all of this time, I was trying to find an accessible and affordable place to live. It was the scariest and hardest experience of my life. It is my hope that with this bill, we will help people who end up in a similar situation not to have to endure the same struggles that I and my daughter went through during this time. Seeing the post-traumatic stress that my daughter still experiences is something that I don't want for any mother. I am testifying today on behalf of myself and our members, most of whom still live in subsidized housing and know the value of it, and they too would be still living in institutions like a nursing home. Today we are asking you to vote yes on this bill and help move us forward in the right direction to be a city that continues to fight for housing for the lowest income Philadelphians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, identify yourself and proceed.
Good morning. My name is Mika Outlaw, and I am a NAC coordinator with Diversified Community Services. Today, we stand with the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities to support Bill 190859. Each day, I work with people who need all types of services, from helping people stay in their homes to connecting them with programs that can help make their homes safe and livable. The challenge is some of the people whose homes will qualify for help can't get it because of the income restrictions or the funding for rental assistance has either ran out or the income guidelines are so low that not even the working poor could qualify. I can include myself in the working poor as I make $42,000 a year, and honestly can't afford some of the rents in my neighborhood. The irony in this is that the very programs that I help people to get, I myself don't qualify for, and there are many others as well, including seniors who receive retirement or pensions who will not qualify either. I am here today to speak about the importance of the funding the original Housing Trust Fund and ask that the Rules Committee pass the commercial density bonus out of committee as is. A growing number of people need services funded by the original Housing Trust Fund, including basic system repairs, homelessness prevention, adaptive modification, and affordable rental development. This city has more people in poverty than any other big city. The original Housing Trust Fund demonstrates the city's admirable intent to support struggling families by ensuring that half of the money goes to households earning 30% of AMI or less. Council enacted these programs and the programs work. However, they must be adequately funded to address the need at scale. I met a lady whose home I had to visit because she was behind in her real estate taxes. Once there, she began to tell me how her home is falling apart. She is scared to call for help from the city for the different programs for fear that L&I will condemn her home and force her to move out. Her feeling is, this is my home, this is all I have, and if I lose this, then I will have nothing. Then there are the countless phone calls I receive where people are asking for help with rental assistance or a shelter that the family can move to that takes two-parent homes. But the real struggle has been finding shelters for fathers with children. There aren't too many. One or two to be exact. But then I have to ask myself, why do I have to find shelters when there are so many vacant homes in the neighborhoods that could be used for housing? The Adaptive Modification Program is the only program that will fix something in the home if you are a renter, as long as the homeowner says it's okay. As we all know, slumlords come a dime a dozen in this city, and there are more tenants who live in homes that can use some of the help that the Basic System program offers. This would not be a reward for landlords because they would have to pay the monies back unless they fix the problem first. Then there is a Facebook group I am a part of called From One Mother to Another, which has over 2,000 members. Every day there is a mother in there talking about how she has nowhere to stay with her children. What shelter can she go to? Or does anyone know who has funding left for rental assistance? There are many more stories that I can share, so can all of the other NACs throughout the city. Thousands of people across the city are experiencing similar circumstances. We ask that you take heart with what you hear from your constituents regarding this matter, and again, vote yes on Bill number 190859. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Outlaw, thank you. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown? Yes.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you all enjoy a relationship with Liberty Resources?
He's back there. He's on the committee. Back there.
Where?
Back there.
Oh, yes. How you doing? I think I ask because it's important that there be a relationship with Liberty Resources and the mission of what you all do, which is so incredibly important. And on behalf of Councilwoman Blackwell and myself, I want to say thank you for acknowledging the work that the two of us did over 10 years ago with the Housing Trust Fund. It took us a minute. It was very hard. It took us over 2 years, but we were able to find a way to be helpful in a tangible way forever. So thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of the community that you represent. Thank you very much.
And Liberty Resources is a very strong member of the Philadelphia Coalition for Affordable Communities here today in our green shirts. So we're with
Terrific.
you.
He's a terrific leader too, but I'm biased. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Before I recognize Councilman Torbenberg, I have to say it makes me happy in our last day chairing this committee that we have WCRP happy with us. So that doesn't happen all the time, okay? Okay. Councilman Torbenberg, please.
Thank you, Chairman Greenlee. I also want to echo what was said earlier by my colleague, Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds-Brown, but also I want to really highlight someone very special, particularly in my time in council, and has been a good friend and really a great supporter of all things Philadelphia, and particularly for the disabled community, and that's Mr. Tom Earl. Mr. Earl, thank you. Thank you for your fine work and your advocacy, and it's well appreciated by all people, the disabled and able-bodied communities as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councilwoman Blackwell, thank you,
I will say thank you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions, comments? Thank you all very much. Anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190-859? Seeing none, thank you very much. Ms. Marconi, our final bill today.
Bill number 190553, an ordinance establishing a new chapter 17-2300 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Community Benefits Agreements, and requiring community benefits agreements for certain high-impact projects or development projects that receive city support or financial assistance, all under certain terms and conditions.
And Ms. Marconi, why don't you call the first three names we have on the list?
Tonetta Graham, Claudia Sherrod, and Diane Monroe.
While they're coming up, come on up. I just forgot to just put on the record on the last bill, 190-859, we have written testimony and support from both Beth McConnell of the PACDC and Yerman Parodi, I'm probably messing that name up, from Disabled in Action. Thank you. They will be made part of the record. Please, Ms. Monroe.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Diane Monroe, 14th Ward Democrat Executive Committee, RCO Chair. Thank you for allowing me to take several minutes of your precious time. The 14th Ward RCO supports proposed amendment to Bill 190553, adding a new chapter 17-2300 entitled Community Benefits Agreement. This amendment will give guidance to the development of high-impact development projects. I'd like to bring your attention to 172303, a list of examples in a community benefits agreement between the developer and the host community, wherein the 14th Ward RCO practice has always been the inclusion of several of the listed points in our CBAs with developers, especially inclusion of our local open air spaces, Lemon Street and East Poplar playgrounds, wherein we have found great support from developers because they understand that an improved open air place to gather benefits not only the longtime residents' families, but their potential tenants too. This bill will enhance and encourage the community and developers to come together. This ordinance will establish a long-term relationship between the developer, owner, potential tenants, and the impact community because being invested where you live and where you own brings unity. So in closing, I encourage you to vote yes for this proposed amendment. It's a good thing. It's a good thing not only for communities that are greatly affected by gentrification, but also for the new tenants that will be coming into. So thank you again for allowing me to speak, and I encourage you to vote yes for this amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe. Please, ma'am, identify yourself and proceed.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ebony Griffin, and I'm a staff attorney with the Public Interest Law Center, focusing on environmental justice and the Law Center's Garden Justice Legal Initiative. In our environmental work, the Law Center uses a variety of methods to ensure that Philadelphia's most vulnerable residents have access to a healthy, natural, and built environment, but also that they have a seat at the table and a voice in what happens in their neighborhoods. One way that we accomplish this is by providing pro bono legal representation to community groups and registered community organizations in negotiating meaningful community benefits agreements with developers. A meaningful CBA is a powerful tool in staving off the negative impacts of gentrification and ensuring that developers invest in the neighborhoods they profit from. The Law Center applauds you for proposing legislation requiring that developers negotiate CBAs. However, for these CBAs to make a difference and address economic disparity in low-income and communities of color, there's a lot more work to do. This bill must require that CBAs feature the impacted community and include meaningful benefits. The Law Center has experience negotiating CBAs on behalf of historically disinvested communities to ensure that those most impacted are actively involved in decisions impacting their neighborhoods. We also work hard to ensure that the resulting benefits are valuable to those most impacted. We have learned from these experiences and would appreciate the opportunity to help craft legislation that accomplishes the goals you have identified in an inclusive and community-centered way. Below, we offer some guidance on key components of a meaningful CBA and hope to interface with you to develop a comprehensive bill. Here's the below.
Thank you.
Not done. Guiding principles. So the Community Benefits Law Center defines CBAs as complex multi-party contracts executed by several community-based organizations and one or more developers, including developers' commitments to provide a range of community benefits related to a proposed development project and usually containing the community-based organization's commitment to support approval of the project. CBAs can have a negative connotation due to the prevalence of superficial packages, often referred to as bats and jerseys packages or pay-to-pollute packages, lacking a transparent negotiation process and often not featuring the impacted community. A meaningful CBA has the power to revitalize economic development and address job insecurity, housing insecurity, and educational gaps in historically disinvested communities, among other benefits. However, for a CBA to be meaningful, it must abide by the following guiding principles. Represent the interests of those most impacted. 2, follow an inclusive and transparent process. 3, include meaningful benefits representative of the community's needs. 4, include defined measurable benefits. And 5, include accountability safeguards. Determining those most impacted and ensuring they have a seat at the table is the first step and arguably the most difficult and important in crafting a meaningful CBA. To be effective, any bill must clearly define and require an equitable process for making these initial determinations. We have worked in communities with clear organizational structure and respective leadership. However, we have also worked in communities with no apparent leadership or prominent community organizations representing the general community need. In those instances, hosting a series of community meetings and information sessions to identify community priorities and persons interested in taking on a leadership role in the negotiations is critical to determining who should be at the table. These community meetings must be accessible and transparent, meaning widely advertised, held at a variety of times to ensure those with non-traditional work schedules have an opportunity to participate, are translated, and held at facilities with access for persons with disabilities. Coalition building or merging pre-existing groups into one body for a specific purpose is another option for neighborhoods with multiple community organizations with different focuses. Additionally, to ensure CBAs meaningfully address community needs, any legislation should anticipate and prevent bats and jerseys type CBAs. One way to do so is to require a minimum community contribution by the developer based on a certain percentage of the project budget. In addition, the CBA should address issues of common concern for the impacted community, but also anticipate potential adverse impacts of the project and include benefits to address those negative consequences. For example, a bill could require addition of an affordable housing component on any multifamily unit development. Another option would be to require the addition of green space in areas without easy access to parks or safe outdoor space. Similarly, a bill could require job training or priority hiring in neighborhoods with high rates of unemployment. The Law Center looks forward to continuing the conversation around creating legislation for ensuring historically disinvested communities have a voice in what happens in their neighborhoods. This bill is a start to amplifying that community voice. However, this bill must incorporate strategies and safeguards to ensure the process is equitable and the CBAs are meaningful if the bill is to achieve its stated purpose. We hope to have the opportunity to work through that process with you. Thank you for listening.
Any questions? Yeah, Councilwoman Sanchez.
Ebony, thank you so much for the work you're doing at the Public Law Center and for this particular presentation. I thought it was very thoughtful. You know, when we moved to do some of the zoning revisions, and the Planning Commission has attempted to work through its Planning Institute to help better inform people about zoning land use, right? Because a lot of the conversations around community benefits are not related to the zoning designation, right, per se, but around some of the community benefits. So, you know, you have the Citizens Institute. I know they're doing one that's like 3 hours long versus a massive one. What other kind of education initiative pieces do you think, as we begin a new zoning code committee to review, what other things do you think we need to make sure we do this on this version of it as we begin another discussion about updates to the zoning code?
That's a really great question. I think community education, like you said, is key. And I would encourage council to look for ways in which it can invest in existing community organizations and RCO so that they can sort of create their own CPIs, so to speak. CPI is a great program. I've participated in it. And I think it's wonderful in providing great information, but it's not really accessible to everyone. So I think a way to create a larger scale program or like a citywide thing that could incorporate more people and get more people involved so people do understand where there is a need for a zoning change or a variance versus an opportunity for CBA or in conjunction with an opportunity for CBA. I think that is also a great start in developing a meaningful program.
So, you know, I have like 16 RCOs. So it depends on who comes to the meeting, right? Part of the issue is always like, who has the time to come into the meeting, right? And one of my challenges is always, you know, I have long-term residents, for instance, who don't always go to those meetings, don't always feel like their voices are heard. People with privilege and a little bit more information can dominate those kind of discussions as it relates to long-term residents. Where we do have RCOs attached to CDCs, obviously the work is better, more thorough, I think a little bit more transparent, but there are groups, you know, parts of neighborhoods that don't have CDCs and others where I think those voices are missing. So I do want to continue that conversation as someone who's like 90% remapped, because I want to move people away from what they don't want and really, we've spent a lot of time moving people to what they'd like to see, right? So that there's some common values around community amenities. I really am interested, and we'll circle back around what else we could be doing to inform folks as we do some of the things that have turned to great tools, you know, mixed income housing, which I authored. Now that we're looking at commercial density, people now need to understand that a lot of this stuff is going to happen by right? And we want to make sure that in that process, there's still a voice for them, right?
Absolutely.
And so thank you so much for that work, because I think there's a space here that we have to fill somehow, information space, right?
Yes.
Around
yes,
folks. And we appreciate your collaboration in that.
Thank you. We would love to continue the conversation with you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you both. Ms. Grant, I understand now, I know your name was called earlier. Come on up.
Yes.
But before you start, anyone else here to testify on this bill? All right, come on. Okay, all right. Why don't we take these two and the other, you two, why don't you sit in the black chairs up here, okay? Anyone else other than those folks? Oh, we got a whole lot. Okay, all right. You too. Okay, all right. All right, why don't you wait now? Let these three go and then.
Okay.
All right, please identify yourself. Ms. Graham, why don't you start because your name was called
I'm
earlier.
trying to pull up my testimony here. Do you guys want to start?
All right, Ms. Sherrod, why don't you start?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
You can go ahead. While I talk.
Please identify yourself and proceed.
I'm Dr. Cora Turpin. I have been a long-term committee person in 5th Ward, 23rd Division, and a community activist. I thank you for having me here again today. I am in support of Bill 190553. It is absolutely essential to support greening projects that are for public health and wellness. I was very glad to see this. The projects that indicated by Ms. Monroe are quite essential for any neighborhood. There are other areas that the green projects do support. We need rodent control in high-impact areas. Nobody seems to notice that when you start digging the grounds in Philadelphia, the rodents start running, so that the residents that are there already are now having a new kind of problem, and that is control of the rodents. It is absolutely essential that the water runoff be controlled. We have a lot of flooding occurring in the neighborhood, especially around Northern Liberties. The runoff needs to be controlled. When you dig down in these holes and you start hitting the sewage, and the flooding is terrible. It's very costly. There needs to be a reduction of concrete. As you are allowing higher concrete buildings to be built, you are increasing the heat of the area. And this is without any greening requirements for these huge buildings that are being put there. Tree planting is essential to reduce pollution. You can't keep tearing down and taking out the trees without putting some back, because it is essential for our air to be breathable. You need to prohibit the use of lawn areas for building on them. I happen to be in an area where it was laid out by the city, where there are large lawns on the corner houses. You are now permitting the developers to put houses on those huge houses, which of course is changing the neighborhood and increasing the heat. They are not doing anything in the greening process of putting anything green back there to help absorb this heat. We need to work more. This is for community benefits. I don't know whether your budget in this bill considers it, but your solar paneling. Solar panels need to be affordable, and this is part of a community benefit because that also reduces the air pollution. As far as jobs, I can understand where the request to have more community people involved in the building of these projects is important, but also the maintenance of these projects needs to be a part of the community activity. Workshops in the summer, workshops for our teenagers to encourage them to become green people, to encourage them to understand what greening will do to enhance their community. These persons need to be paid. The communities where the income is low, these little jobs help tremendously in forwarding our youth in their expectations of getting to schools and that kind of thing. I can appreciate that there is a lot of concern about the greening and the wellness of the communities. And I am asking for these things to happen in spite of the fact that they will raise my real estate taxes because my community, which is Northern Liberties, will become even more desirable. And I want to state here, the assessment for my house in 1 year went up $12,800. I used to be a middle-class person, but I, as a former teacher in the Philadelphia school system, cannot stand those kinds of increases in assessment. But so long, what is happening, even though we are asking for all of these community improvements, is that you are pricing your middle class, your retired people out of their homes. We need to make an overall view of what is occurring and make it possible for all of us to stay in our homes. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ms. Graham, why don't you go next?
Yes, thank you so much.
Did you find your speech there? Okay.
Yes, I did. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for your patience. Hello, my name is Tanetta Graham, and I am the president of the Strawberry Mansion Community Development Corporation. Somebody is calling me right now. I don't know why. So I am here to support the community benefits agreement legislation. This provides an opportunity for residents and the developer to engage in directed negotiations for projects that have a large impact. And if you give me one more second, my phone is acting up.
See, technology isn't always the best
I
thing.
know, right? No,
Paper still works now and then,
Somebody was calling me while I was, I really apologize for this. I'm so sorry. I know, I'm just.
See, us old folks know that. These young people, they don't know paper anymore.
My apologies. I just want to make sure this is right. Okay, here we go. Thank you again for your patience. All right. So I'm excited to come before you today to speak in support of an important issue in my work of neighborhood strengthening and in my community of Strawberry Mansion. Simply put, far too many citizens living in low-wealth urban neighborhoods are subject to negative impacts of large urban development projects while having limited access to the new economic and social opportunities that these projects provide. Today presents a moment to ensure their voices are used to guide this process and to move forward towards more equitable development. As referenced in the amendment to Bill number 190553, the Philadelphia Community Benefit Ordinance seeks to align the development's impact with the community's needs through an upfront, structured engagement process that will, 1, decrease the adversarial relationship that often arises between developers and communities like Strawberry Mansion that have suffered through decades of disinvestment. 2, allows a broad coalition of stakeholders to proactively insert their voice to express their community's vision and values while creatively addressing their community's needs. 3, it ensures the developers of these large projects actively engage with the community and considers the impact on that area. And 4th and lastly, for those developers who genuinely want to cultivate those local partnerships, it will demystify the exchange process. And I say exchange instead of give back process. That's the difference, because there is an exchange. It will demystify the exchange process by defining the coalition with whom they would negotiate with, as well as the time frame that they should do it. So there are many advantages for the developer and for the communities to enter into these benefit agreements for high impact areas. For developers, it decreases the risk. It provides active support for their project, and a community plan provides for a community plan with structured accountability. For the community, it's the opportunity to address a range of needs from social to economic development, connect community resources, and to ultimately reap the rewards of development that was often missed in the past. So that was just a few of the community benefit agreements advantages for both parts. There's many more, but at this time, I want to encourage you to move to amend this legislation forward so that developers and communities like the ones I represent impacted by larger projects can engage in meaningful development with a win-win approach.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Thank you. I'm glad you found your talk.
Thank you, that was much better.
Sir, if you identify yourself or proceed.
Good morning. My name is Philip Murray. Chairman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee, my name is Philip Murray. I am the president of the East Poplar Community Organization, a board member of the Friends of the East Poplar Playground, and a resident of the 14th Ward. I'm also a former research analyst for the House Democratic Commerce Committee. The East Poplar Community Organization is in support of the Bill 190553. Community benefits agreements between the community and developers allow for the renovations of existing amenities, including, but not limited to, parks, playgrounds, financial support for schools, scholarships, jobs for Philadelphians, and the greening of urban areas. These agreements not only help improve the lives of existing residents, but will upgrade our communities and create and restore amenities which can be enjoyed by new residents. We've seen that in the 14th Ward, and I have to give props to Diane Monroe, who has testified previously, because she has actually begun to do this already with her RCO. Community benefit agreements are also a tool in combating the sting of gentrification, providing a positive impact that all members of the community can enjoy or benefit from. In addition, community benefit agreements can be one of the components that the city can use to help achieve its goal of reducing poverty through creating jobs, job training for local residents, and affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for this panel? Seeing none, thank you very much. If we could have the other, how many we got? Four more people? And Jahad, you wanted to say something too? Okay, so anybody else? Okay, why don't you folks come on. John, come on up and sit in the black seat so we can keep moving forward. I would just particularly urge, if you have anything particularly to add differently than the previous witnesses, because we're going to slowly be bumping up against another hearing. So please identify yourself and proceed.
We'll try, okay? My name is Jacqueline Wiggins. I am a long-term resident of North Central Philadelphia, committee person, 32nd Ward, 11th Division, and retired educator, or sort of. Good morning, everyone. I'm responding to Bill 190553. I have several concerns. I'd like clarification on Section A. Quote, "It shall be the policy of the City of Philadelphia to require, wherever feasible, proportional community benefits as a condition of city support or financial assistance as defined in 17-2302. What is meant by proportional community benefits? And that this bill was introduced June 13, 2019, and perhaps some developers were sensible and sensitive enough to work out something like a CBA with our residents and taxpayers via an organization, civic association, RCO. Will this be retroactive to those who are not sensitive and sensible? I mean, some developers sincerely think that monitoring trash disposal takes the form of a CBA and that neighbors should be grateful. So is this bill retroactive? For the many years developers did not have to think about a CBA. And I mean that sincerely. I see that there's a bit of a glossary of terms in the bill, but I don't see a word for developer. I don't want to confuse the word contractor, get it confused with developer. Are they one and the same?
If I can interrupt on that one, there is now this, I don't know if you're looking at the amendment to this, which kind of changed the whole bill, but there is on the first page a definition of developer, yes.
Okay, thank you. Under E, high-impact development project, why are we, as one of the poorest big cities in the USA, expecting, quote, any construction that will produce disproportionately high and adverse human health or environmental impacts, including social, aesthetic, economic, physical, chemical, or biological impacts in the host community, unquote, in 2019? I mean, wouldn't something like that be vetted by the state or federal or state or city agencies? The list of possible benefits, I think, needs further examination, as I think was mentioned by Attorney Griffin, by the residents and taxpayers, civic organizations, educational entities, businesses, and developers, because in my opinion, there's vagueness in some of that intent. I think there's an intent that's there, but there needs to be more inclusivity. Number 7, providing recreational activities, parks, and affordable housing in the host community. Can that become retroactive? I could go on, but I won't. This bill, I think, is a beginning, but I think it needs more thought, a lot more thought. It seems like something like this seems, to an extent, too little, too late. We must get past the thinking that this is okay, and I don't think that's the intent, but I am being critical because I live here, and I try to be informed, and believe me, I am not alone. City Council representatives of districts and at large, I urge you to rethink this bill in its entirety and think more inclusively of who should be in the genuine development of any community benefits agreement for all neighborhoods, and especially the ones being gentrified, before this, quote, ordinance shall take effect immediately. Thank you.
Okay. Ma'am, if I could ask you, because I think you're looking at the old bill, there were some changes.
Okay.
And if
We
you
don't have
could
that.
meet with
We have
Mr.
what we have.
Christmas here and go over the, some of your questions, he may be able to address them. I do believe, though, Ms. Christmas, if I'm right, this is not retroactive, right? No, I don't think we can do that. So this is going forward. So, but if you could talk to Mr. Christmas, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Who would like to go next?
I'm sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Gail Loney. I'm a block captain and a member of the program committee for the Uptown Entertainment RCO, and a lifelong member of the North Central Philadelphia neighborhood. I'm second generation in my home, and I've lived in that neighborhood. I grew up in that neighborhood. I've raised my daughter in that neighborhood. My concern about this community benefits bill is that it doesn't go far enough, and that there are some, as far as I'm concerned, some valid questions that need to be addressed. And maybe because I haven't seen the amended bill, you may address some of these, but these were some of my concerns. And I feel like the community benefits agreement could be a good thing, but I feel like this bill kind of limits the community's ability to speak and be considered a community. First off, it does not mention who and how an organization will be chosen to represent the community in developing this community benefits agreement. That's very important because if you have people who are well-connected and have money in certain areas, they take over these types of organizations and meetings and don't necessarily consider and have consideration for the poorer neighborhoods and communities that don't represent well and don't have as much knowledge and education around a lot of issues. The fact that it's being determined, the community to me is being determined by the census tract now. I don't have a lot of knowledge about the census tract, but trust me, I am doing my research right now to find out what that actually means. And the fact that you're saying that, and may consider adjacent communities around the census tract of a large development, a lot of these large developments have a rippling effect on a community. So even if it is in proximity close to these neighbors in that census tract, you're not considering congestion, traffic, parking, and all of those other things that are needed to be considered with regards to those large developments. To me, rezoning should not be even included in this at all, because if I can't go to my RCO and complain about a development project because, they want rezoning, rezoning has an everlasting effect in the neighborhood. Once you rezone something, it's permanently rezoned. It does not change until somebody else goes through and wants to rezone it. And in my neighborhood, once something is rezoned, it's it. That's it. We don't get any recourse. We barely have a voice. We barely get to speak to our council people in regards to the things that are going on in the neighborhood. You have something in here talking about demonstrating exigencies, and in that regard, determine if the community benefits is infeasible. Who and how are these urgent demands determined, and at what point? Urgencies, emergencies, and are unexpected situations. And in my neighborhood, we don't trust the developers. I go to the RCO meetings. I know how they come in there. They come in there with the knowledge and the information of what they don't have to do. And, you know, in our neighborhoods, they talk down to the people in those communities, you know. And it is a difference when you go to other RCO meetings and see how, if you're in Northern Liberties as opposed to North Central, if you are uptown in Germantown and Mount Airy, it's a whole different ballgame, you know. And when an agreement is determined to be infeasible, there should be a stated, documented, well thought out plan to see to it that the community still receives achievable, equitable recourse with regards to that. And as far as penalties for noncompliance, I'm a retired compliance analyst, okay? Yeah, there needs to be more here. The penalties for noncompliance should include what I just said about a stated, documented recourse, and it should be some financial penalties. When people put large projects in our neighborhoods, they don't consider the disabled. They don't consider the elderly. They don't consider a lot of things. And so having a community benefits agreement, yeah, that sounds good, but if you're not going to give it any power and any teeth and any real consideration and help for the people, especially in communities that have been really disenfranchised and nothing is happening, then this ain't no better than whatever they've already, you know, been dealing with and what they have, you know? So I just would think that, you know, you would amend this before putting it out there, because it to me, is full of holes. It's holes that need to be questioned and discussed and well thought out, and it needs to be inclusive of those well-defined communities and those well-defined RCOs and those well-defined neighborhoods, as well as the neighborhoods who just don't have that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Green, please.
Yeah, Tiffany Green. Community benefit agreement is something that had been talked about for a long time. However, let's talk about 2401 Washington Avenue that's before you right now for passage. Now, they were selected, it was given to RCO, majority white RCO, and the African American led RCO was put on the back burner. Okay, they have not been a part of the negotiations, the community benefit, or anything at this point. And what was offered to the developer is rezoning. Now, the problem with the rezoning is that you're taking away the independent property owner's right to a ZBA hearing. You have that in this community benefit agreement. You have no right to give the developer a rezoning and take away our constitutional right to go to the ZBA and to voice our opinions regarding the possible negative impact it may have on our community. If you pass this bill with the rezoning benefit to the developer, then you have stripped us of all of our Philadelphia and United States citizen rights. We have the right to go in front of the ZBA, pro and con, and give our opinion and have it decided by a public board. You have no right to take away the fact that if we do not agree with the agreement, then we have the right to come down here to City Hall and voice our opinion regarding this project. This rezoning must be taken out of the CBA bill. If not, then then this whole document has stripped the Philadelphia community of any power. The reality is that many of the new RCOs are being selected by our councilmen, and a lot of the older RCOs are not being asked to come to the table. A lot of times at this particular point, why it doesn't say in there that this will require all of the RCOs to agree to the benefit. You have host community. That is too vague to put into a law. Does the community benefit have to be agreed upon by all of the RCOs or just by one or two RCOs? Okay, because if that's the case, then you're going to go towards RCOs who are pro-market rate and pro-development, and those who are pro-affordable housing RCOs will be put off to the side. And that is unfair treatment regarding our rights as citizens of Philadelphia. The other issue is at this particular point is that the census tract. Now, what you're using is the census tract is the narrowing
of the communities to have a right and a say to this particular project. You want to use the census tract, but yet you're taking away the standing of all the other residents nearby. This is a serious issue to try to narrow it down so that you're cutting into the rights of the people to have a say on the particular property that might be, because larger properties will have an impact going further than what you're offering at this particular point. And so we're saying that the census needs to be removed out of there, out of this project, out of this particular proposal. Also,
can I actually
hold on one second.
I have a question. Can you please share with us any development that was done in a way that you believe was respectful and acceptable?
well, in our particular area, at this particular point, all of the community benefit agreements have included rezoning. Rezoning means that you take away the ZBA process.
Okay, let me get
so,
back to
no, there has not
question.
been not one. Let me mention, Broad and Washington Avenue was a rezone bill that you voted for. 2501 Washington Avenue, was a rezone bill that you voted for, that took away the rights.
Is there one development project,
No.
that's taken place that was suited to your satisfaction or acceptance?
We were not. There was no project suitable to our satisfaction because we weren't invited to the table.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The new RCOs were selected
Okay.
to lead, and the new RCOs dictated the process. And the new resident RCOs were the ones who have created the community benefit
I
agreement.
see.
So
Okay.
that's the problem we have because it's not inclusive of all of the RCOs in that geographical area.
Okay.
And so that's the
thank you.
problem we
Okay.
have with that. One more. I'm gonna finish it up real quick because I know others want to speak.
Please, yes.
Also with the benefit, it does not push in terms of the affordable housing piece. You're saying 10%. A lot of times 10% is what? 10% is not really a lot because at this point you have 10%. You're leaving the poor community at a disadvantage when you have 200 units or 285 units. 10% is 23 units. That's not a lot of units at this particular point. And we think that the affordable housing should go up further. It should be a more requirement to have mixed. If you're going to have mixed income and mixed housing, then these large complexes need to have mixed income and mixed housing and not just 10%. Finally, with the shopping center, the RCO that was to the east was selected, which was majority a white RCO area. But if you had went to the north, it would have been all the African American led RCOs, and so therefore the selection process is key in terms of this community benefit agreement. And at this point, you don't define that, and to pass this bill and then leave it up to others to put together regulations, which is not really something very vague, is really doing us a disservice. In conclusion, my main concern is the rezoning, and I feel the rezoning needs to be taken out. You cannot take away independent property owners' right to a ZBA hearing. You cannot do that. And that is a law that will that will be something that will definitely be challenged and will definitely take this further.
Okay, thank you. All right, other than these two individuals here, anyone else here testify on this bill? Okay, these will be our two final. Whoever would like to go next.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of City Council's Committee on Rules. I'll be brief in the interest of time. My name is David W. Feldman. I serve as the Executive Director of the Development Workshop, which is a group of construction companies, real estate attorneys, developers, architecture, engineering firms, real estate professionals, and economists working to grow the economic health of the city and build a development environment that can compete successfully on a national scale. The Development Workshop applauds Council President Clark and staff for convening a group of stakeholders around this legislation through the summer and the fall. Over the past several months, community organizations, developers, trade associations, concerned citizens, council offices have met to discuss the legislation in an open, transparent, and collaborative environment. And today's legislation is the cumulative product of many of those discussions with many groups of folks and strikes a fair balance between the concerns of all the interested parties. I'd like to take this opportunity, thank you for taking this opportunity to testify on the bill. And as well, Council Chair Greenlee, I'd like to thank you for your leadership and your transparency over the years in multiple appearances before this committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. God, please.
Good morning. My name is Jihad Ali. I'm here to testify. I'm here on Southwest Philadelphia District Services behalf. I'm here to testify in support of Bill 190553. In my opinion, this is a great start because I guess my history goes back to the time when the great late Lucian Blackwell was here, and we were fighting. I was a contractor. I was a carpenter, and before I got into the union, we fought for every job to get employment as subcontractors. So to me, this is building on that effort. We went from where we were denied, and we still fight for that, but we were denied to participate in construction contracts. And now the community, back in those days, community wasn't even thought of. We used to always have community benefit agreements, but we didn't call them that then. We called them protests. And that's following the tradition of all black people that we've been protesting since we got in this country, one way or the other. But in the late 60s, every time we wanted some participation, we protest. And I can recall when the last protest that I participated on was on the Constitution Center. And we had Commissioner Johnson, with Zachary Rose, we shut down that street and backed it all the way up to 30th Street, and the commissioner respected our right to protest. And that's how we demanded participation for contractors. So now we move forward to this CBA, and I've been on the end of CBAs working on behalf of Southwest Philadelphia District Services for a long time. I can recall with the councilwoman being in meetings when the developers said, we were sticking them up, we were robbing them, we were committing extortion, and all kinds of outrageous accusations they would say. And then the CBA started taking hold from the West Coast. It was actually the Staples Center in California that was really the first big CBA that went out. And then it started coming to the East Coast. And it was only through the support of this council that we were able to be successful in Councilwoman Jane Blackwell's district, and Blondell's district, and Darrell's district, and Curtis Jones' district. It was that support. I do want to say there was always an opportunity to come down here to speak in these proceedings, just like today. We're not here because this committee gives us permission to be here. We're here because this government gives us permission to be here. In fact, the law says that these microphones will be open for citizens to come down here to say what they have to say. And I'm here today to express that right that I have. But I think that this bill is a great start because as a participant in negotiations for CBAs, everything that is outlined in this bill are things that we requested. Everything, whether it's just a different interpretation of it. Where they say support for schools, well, we wanted tuition for some people. Everybody don't want to do construction. Some people might want to do something else. So we wanted tuition paid for that. So this bill covers just about everything that I would like to add. I just think that, and the thing with zoning, the former speaker Tiffany wasn't here when the previous bills, I mentioned this bill, 190553, because it talks about rezoning. And that series of bills we just passed, they talked about rezoning, and it was Bill 190902 because the rezoning triggered the OEO plan. And because of that, now we have that inclusion in that. And in fact, there's other bills, the Civic Center Boulevard Bill, 190891, that was rezoning, that triggered an OEO plan. So OEO plans are a form of participation, community benefit agreements, but it's really for contractors. CBAs are for neighborhood groups. And this bill is a foundation. Now, there's a lot of mistrust and it's a lot of communities where there's a lot of ill will feelings towards government and developers. Because as one of the other speakers said, I've been in plenty of meetings. When developers come in the room, they think they're the smartest guys in there. And when their lawyers come in there, they're even worse because they have no respect for the people. This is the only place where there's great power and great humility. This council. Because when you go out there in the real world, you can have billionaires. There's very few billionaires that are humble. I know there's one in the audience today. I don't want to point him out, but he's been a humble guy. And when the councilwoman asked about when the previous speaker had asked about, well, how is this thing decided when there's multiple hosts? Well, in my mind, the question I wanted to ask the committee, it seems like it would follow the RCO process. It doesn't matter who the selected RCO is. In Southwest Philadelphia District Service, I don't care who they pick because we have the same rights. We have the same rights. We have the same power. We have the same right to oppose. We have the same right to go get a counselor and oppose this bill. So if that follows that process where they bring all the committees together, that's a start. Councilwoman Blondell asked about examples of projects that were successful, and one project, I would like to name a couple of them. the Irvine building at 52nd and Whibby Avenue. We fought that, and when this bill talks about, it talks about well, what are the penalties, and this bill talks about well, council has the right to material failure to comply with provision in this chapter may result in denial or termination of city support or financial assistance. And that type of financial assistance or city support in that particular bill was that zoning went forth, and it was established, as the councilwoman knows, they had the zoning, and the Councilwoman Blackwell was able to challenge that zoning, and that's how we got back to the table. So that is a powerful way to bring about change. The other projects I would like to mention, there's a developer named Mainline Properties, Glenn Falso. He did a project at 34th and Haverford. We didn't have any problem getting a CBA with him. He wanted to work with the community group, and in fact, he wanted to get the houses, to renovate the houses, to put them up for sale. He was willing to give that to the community group in that area to make that happen. There's another project at
Yeah, I think the councilwoman's question was really geared towards just
Well, I
down in
just
her
wanna put it in
area.
the- I wanna
so-
put it in the record.
Yeah, but
And
I know
if-
there have been a whole lot that
I
have
just
worked.
want to put these in the
Yeah.
record because it was battles to get there.
Right.
It wasn't insignificant to achieve those achievements before a CBA got authorized by this city. 42nd in Baltimore, when that project was going on, we fought with those developers, and that developer came to the table and signed the CBA. Schuylkill Yards, that was a project had a lot of fighting in it. And I wanted to mention Schuylkill Yards because it was multiple RCOs. And they used the wisdom of Solomon. They got the RCOs. The RCOs have to decide among themselves how that money is going to be distributed. But it's distributed in a pot. So those are good examples of that. And I think this is an excellent bill. I'm very confident in the council that this council uses. I think anything can be improved, but this is a hell of a start. And from
Thank
a
you.
person that has battled, been accused, been in and out of court fighting for our rights, this is a start. And as I told you to remind you, we've been fighting, we called CBA's protest before, now today we're modernizing, and it's called a CBA.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. All right, no other witnesses for this bill. That will conclude our Rules Committee hearing. Before we go to the meeting, I do have to say, after 8 years of being the chair here, I want to thank the committee and all involved and the public for all the work that has been done. I think over these 8 years, we passed some reasonable legislation. Not everybody agreed with everything we did, which is normal, but I think we were fair both to communities and to development, and also to the development community. And I wish whoever is the next chair all the best, and hope I hope things work out well. And I also have to note for the record the efforts of the real chair of the Rules Committee, Noel Marconi, who puts everything together for me. Yes, please. He puts everything together, gets the testimony, harasses people into getting testimony to us, and make sure that I don't mess things up too badly. So I appreciate that. So again, thank you to everybody for these last years as the chair of the Rules Committee. So with that, we now go.
I have a comment.
Oh,
if I
thank you,
could.
Councilman.
Well, no, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I really want to thank you that you've been the chair here for 8 years, and I'm honored to have served for 4 of those 8 years with you, and it meant a lot to me personally as well, and your leadership
Thank you, sir.
is very, very important and something distinctly for Philadelphia, and I thank you for your service and your leadership.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate it. Thank you. We're going down to a public meeting, and the chair, we all right? Everybody good? Okay. We'll, chair recognizes Councilman Squill.
All right, as a point of personal preference, I do want to say one thing. As Councilman Greenlee has chaired the Rules Committee meeting, it was a work of art. And to be able to be on this as vice chair, it was a great learning process, how you deal with people who are upset and to make them be able to get their words heard and to be able to listen, but also be fair to others who also want to speak is a great challenge. But you were able to really mitigate those things, and you were able to make people know that they had a right to speak and also be heard, but also there was a timeline on that. And there's an art to do that, and you were a master at it. I think you taught us on council a lot. You'll be surely missed. Your leadership, and even somebody who's always on time, unlike myself. You are there to make sure we keep things rolling, and we were blessed to have you. We will miss you, and we probably will be lost next session when we first start to try to figure all these things out. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And appreciate all your hard work.
I'll be rooting for you from my couch here. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I say, one who had 8 bills on this calendar. Only you. I'm not even on this committee. I'm here. I was filling in and didn't leave. And no, it could have only happened through the leadership of Councilman Green, as has been said. And he makes it all seem easy. He's down to earth. He makes it all plain, knows how to relate to all those of us on this side of the table, as well as those of you who are out there to testify. And we are grateful. I tried to talk him out of it, but I couldn't. I sit next to him. I said we couldn't do it without him, but he's been wonderful, and we do
Thank you,
say
Councilman.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Appreciate it. Councilman Squilla?
Thank you. I'd like to move amendments to Bill number 190890, 190897, 190898, 190902, and 190553.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded for adoption of the appropriate amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, all those amendments as read by Councilman Squilla are approved. Once again, Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Councilmember Greenlee. I'd like to move the current bills read before you. Bill number 190853, 190889, 190890 as amended, 190891, 190893, 190894, 190897 as amended, 190898 as amended, 190902 as amended, 190913, 190914, 190916, 190917, 190866, 190859, and 190553 as amended.
And thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the bills, as read with the amendments by Councilman Squilla, be approved and reported. Oh, did you say reported?
I did.
Yeah.
Reported out of committee with a suspension of the rules to be read in the next session of council.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the bills with those appropriate amendments as reported as read by Councilman Squilla, reported out to committee with favorable recommendation, and the rules of council are suspended to allow for first reading at their next session of council. Once again, I want to recognize that WCRP is applauding something we did here. Thank you very much. That concludes the hearing and meeting of the Rules Committee. Thank you.